Well, I'm joined now by the APS's Director of International Affairs, Amy Flatten. Amy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. Now, one of the events that kicked off the meeting, in fact, before the meeting Saturday and Sunday, was the US-China Young Physicists Forum. Tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that.
Yes, thank you for asking. The US-China Young Physicists Forum was part of a larger strategy by the APS in partnership with the Chinese Physical Society to strengthen the communication, connections, and partnerships between the US physics community and the Chinese physics community. The program that we had on Saturday was really a long time in the making.
Right.
To start building our connections with the Chinese physics community, the APS brought a delegation of leaders over to China in 2012. We met with leaders at physics universities, at the Institute of Physics, up and down the East Coast. It would be presumptuous of the APS to go over to China and say, hey, we want to do these things together. That meeting, the purpose of that trip was to listen and to understand their priorities for engaging with the APS. In addition to that, we've held meetings at every March meeting with CPS leaders, CPS being Chinese Physical Society. In every single one of our meetings, one of the common denominators and common interests was bringing together our communities of young people. Consequently, we planned the US-China Young Physicists Forum for this meeting.
Right.
Because we host a number of graduate students from China for the March meeting traditionally. That number has been growing over the years. So we felt that this would be an ideal time to bring the US students and the Chinese students together for a unique meeting of their own.
Because when you come to this meeting, it's a great meeting, but there are thousands of people from kind of all around the world. So it's important maybe to give them a focal point, something that they could connect through.
Absolutely. The US-China Young Physicists Forum focused upon the main themes of the March meeting, condensed matter physics and materials physics. But nonetheless, students at this meeting are engulfed in a sea of 10,000 physicists. Consequently, if we want to build connections between young people of our two communities from our two countries, we need to give them an environment where they're going to have a chance to mix and mingle with each other in a more intimate setting than the March meeting would allow.
Sure.
The US-China Young Physicists Forum was ideal for this because it gave the students an opportunity to not only hear from leaders in their fields through plenary lectures, but then the students broke into parallel sessions and presented to each other. So each student was presenting to an international audience of their peers, being questioned by their peers, engaging in conversations with their peers, and the senior physicists were in the back of the room and they were a minority. The focus of the meeting was the students really engaging with each other scientifically and also socially.
Sounds to me that it was a big success. Now, Amy, my final question is, why is this important? Why is it important that you make these strong connections with the CPS?
I'm glad that you asked that. China is clearly an emerging scientific power. Our US students don't necessarily travel to China the way we have the opportunity to host a lot of Chinese students here. Consequently, these are the partnerships, these are the collaborations that are going to be producing outstanding science in the future. This is the science community, the physics community that US young people will be working with in their senior careers. Consequently, we want to give the students an opportunity to build their international networks, both Chinese students and US students, a chance to understand each other's scientific culture. And some of these friendships that can be made at this meeting have the potential to last a lifetime. And I say this for the following reason. This meeting focused upon condensed matter physics, materials physics. That's going to be the focus of the March meeting for years to come. These students, now that they've met each other, have the chance to see each other over and over again at future March meetings and future international conferences in condensed matter and materials physics. Consequently, they have the potential to lead to very fruitful partnerships and collaboration years down the road.
Well, Amy, thank you ever so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.